Hoş geldiniz.
Saadettin Kaynağ'ın Hicaz şarkısı. Ela gözlerine kurban olduğum, yüzüne bakmaya doyamadım ben.
The first is only playback. Yeah?
100 miles, 100 miles, thunder and lightning. 100 miles, 100 miles, shock and frightening. Rack and bring success, shaking is coming, ooh, ooh, just like laughing words are. Shock is shaking over 100 miles. Yes, over 100 miles. Hold into your heart, as solid as a stone. You tear yourself apart. The soul is not your home. Close your eyes and think. This world is not my party. It's clear as energy. This life is in my heart and here. 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 This life is in my heart and
Okay. So this was one of my first recordings I'd ever did. I mean, like, I would say not professional, but professional, you know. Back then, there was not much of, you know, computers and stuff. So what I did, I used a record player, and they used to have these 7 inches, the small records. And on the 7 inches, they had different rhythms, like a waltz or a foxtrot or a boogie, mambo, and rock and roll. So I just played the records and played the guitar over it and sang on it and recorded it. And my name is Can Oral, and they call me Khan of Finland because I'm half Turkish and half Finnish. And I grew up in Germany. I was born in Germany, and I still live in Germany. But I left a few times and, you know, traveled around the world and had my fun, you know. So I grew up on a gas station in Germany. And my father used to say when he picks up the phone, because we had a Esso, is it called Esso here in Turkey as well? Exxon? Yeah, you know the Exxon. It's called Exxon here, or you have no gas here? Well, anyway, but you have, you know, Aral? Okay, I mean, this is, I guess it's a German-only joke. My father had an Exxon gas station, but he would pick up the phone and he'd say like, oh, Esso Station Oral, so wie Aral, nur mit O. It's like, oh, this is the Exxon station Oral, like Aral, but with an O. And yeah, you know, my father was quite funny actually. He was good, you know. And I've been here since Monday, and I met a friend of mine here from Mexico. I don't know, he didn't make it, I think. But anyway, I showed him around Istanbul, and for me it was like, I showed him all the places my father used to show me here in Istanbul. And so we went to Topkapi, we went to Hagia Sophia, and to Sultan Ahmed, and to the Grand Bazaar, and everywhere. Had lots of food and a couple of drinks. But anyway, I want to go back. So I grew up in Frankfurt, Germany, and for me it was always very difficult to figure out, am I Turkish, or am I Finnish, or am I German? And that question was never really important to me, you know, because I was like, I am who I am, and I'm quite comfortable with that. But it always seemed like that other people were not comfortable with me not telling them what nationality I have. You know, the Turkish people usually say, oh, your father is Turkish, that means you're Turkish. Which is kind of true because I had a Turkish passport until I was maybe 30 or something. And then other people say, for example, oh, you grew up in Germany, then you're German. You know, I'm like, why don't you leave this up to me, who I am or what I want to be, you know? Maybe I want to change it, you know, from time to time. For example, it's very, very good to say I'm Turkish when you go to Mexico, for example, because everybody knows Tarkan in Mexico. So they love you, they love you. They're like, ah! They go like this, you know, and so I change it once in a while. Sometimes I'm Finnish because it's fun. It's fun to be Finnish too. And I grew up just, you know, middle class, on the gas station, which was great because, you know, there was lots of pornography in the back of the in the dressing room for the people who work there. There was lots of candy and sugar, and, you know, and there was some alcohol too. And lots of stuff to play with. You know, you could make fires and, you know, so. And yeah, I grew up, and then I think quite early I started going to like a youth center that was close to our house, and they had bands play in the basement. So I always went to the basement and wanted to watch the bands play, and I was really into music, you know. So I started playing some instruments, and one day the doorbell was ringing, and somebody was downstairs and said, oh, there's a piano for you. And we were like, a what? A piano? So my grandmother from Finland sent the piano for me, but she forgot to tell us. So we had no idea, and the guys were like, this thing is really heavy, you know, like, wah. So we had to call all the neighbors and everybody, and we brought up the piano into the house, and then from then on I had a piano, a really beautiful piano. And I started playing the piano, and my parents got me a piano teacher. She was very conservative. She was a real, you know, real lady. And when you learn piano, in the beginning, they you have the notes, and underneath the notes is a number from 1 to 5, which is the finger numbers. Yeah, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the upper notes. So I only learned the finger notes, and the rest I did from my ears, you know. So I played the songs, but only reading the 1 to 5, and then after 1 or 2 months, the numbers were gone. They were gone. It was like, okay, I guess from then on you should know which finger goes where, but then I couldn't play anymore. And then my piano teacher, she got really mad at me. She was very mad, very strict, and she said, okay, after the summer break, when you come back, you know the notes. But I never came back. I never came back, and I decided I'm just gonna learn it myself, and I want to play the stuff that I want to play anyway. I didn't want to play the etudes and the Bartok and the, I don't know, you know. So yeah, I think I started, you know, I was still going to that youth center and knocking on the doors for all the bands, and I was the little one. So at one point, this one band asked me if I wanted to sing for them. And I was like, whoa, wow, okay. So I started playing in a band. I think I was like 14 or something like this. And by then, I sort of learned a little bit how to play drums. I learned a little bit how to play guitars. And, a little bit of everything. And then I started my own band, And my best friends were both drummers, they were playing drums. So we decided, okay, we just have two drummers and I'm singing. Or I wasn't singing, I was just screaming. It was kind of a punk band, So it was two drums just going really crazy and I was screaming in German. Like rape the Pope, fuck the, punk stuff, like simple, very simple stuff, but sort of visual stuff, And that was really fun. And then we were not good, but we were so weird because it was just two drummers and me, so it was just pure energy. And people really liked it. So we started playing, and I think, I did my first concerts when I was like maybe 16 or something, And then, okay, let's say I was 18 maybe. Then I have to tell you how old I am now. Okay, I was born in 1965. So I'm 54 now, yes, and I guess it was 85 then, 65, 75, like 81, 2, 3, something like this. And that's also when I recorded this stuff. That song, and besides other stuff, and then the first Atari computers came out, The first Atari computers came out, and I started playing around with the computer and MIDI, which is a musical format for computers, exactly. And I still feel bad about this, but I sold the piano because I wanted to buy a sampler. Yeah. So I sold the piano and I bought a sampler. It was like a box like this big. And it was a Prophet 2000. And back then, you could sample up to 4 seconds. Every cell phone you can record now for how long? For like 10 hours or something. But you could sample 5 seconds, and 5 seconds was enough to actually make songs and make little tracks, and you could you could program the keyboard from the computer, and what is absolutely normal and everybody does today was really everything was so simple and minimal. It was really like there was no capacity, and there was no audio recording. It was only MIDI. So I don't have much recordings from that time. I don't know. I lost it all, and there was everything was recorded on DAT tapes, and most of them are gone. And I moved out of the house of my parents. I moved into my own apartment in Frankfurt and started working on the stock market, blah, 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 blah. And then I was like, I'm leaving. I want to go somewhere. And at that time, I had met this Finnish guy in Finland in a club called Berlin, and his name is Jimmy Tenner. I don't know. Do you know Jimmy Tenner? Yeah. Okay. So Jimmy and we decided, let's move to New York. And we did. So he and his girlfriend, and I'm by myself. We met in New York. We found an apartment. They stayed a year and a half, and I stayed 11 years. So when I was in New York, I was like, okay, what am I gonna do? You know, it's like I made some money at the stock market thing. I mean, I wasn't like a stockbroker or anything. I was just, you know, working a shitty job. But I had some money on the side, and when we moved to New York, I could live a little bit on that money. And of course, I met a few people. You know, when you move to a new place, the best thing is you're open to meet people. You just want to meet people, and you're, you know, and yeah, well, you know, I started making music with Jimmy, and we wanted to start a band. That never happened. We just went out every night and spent all the money, and then we couldn't pay the rent. So we had to start working for our landlord. And our landlord had this big synagogue in Manhattan. So we had to clean the synagogue, you know, to pay for the rent. And in the same synagogue, he would rent out the synagogue for video shoots. So, for example, the Fugees, they were shooting videos there. Delight was shooting videos. All these hip-hop bands, all these, like, you know, big bands were, because of, you know, shooting videos because it was a great location. And then I met this guy, and he told me that he was working for a phone sex company. And I was like, oh, I can do that. And so he introduced me to the people that do it, and they listened to my voice. And I said, hello, my name is Hans. I come from Germany, and I'm blonde. And they were like, perfect. I started making a lot of money then. I was quite popular, you know, to the point where it actually got really creepy, you know. It got really creepy because, I mean, you know, I mean, like these people call, and they're like, yeah, I'm on my coffee break, you know. I have 10 minutes. Yeah, stand in front of me naked. And it's like, yeah, I'm in front of you naked. I'm shaking my balls, and, you know. And I was like, of course, I was like lying in my bed, and like, and but you sort of, I had some regular customers. They would always call me all the time, you know, and yeah, and then you sort of start to get into their heads because you kind of learn what they like, and then I was like, I don't like what you like, you know. So I decided I wanted to be a musician, so let's fucking be a musician, you know. So I by that time I knew a few DJs, and Jimmy and I, we bought some equipment we had at home. We had a little studio in our kitchen, and I knew enough people to convince them. I told them, like, hey, you have the money, I have the connections, and I do the work. So they gave me money to open a record shop in New York. I called all my friends in Germany who had record labels. By then I was sort of like already producing some like basic techno stuff in our kitchen. And so I told all the record labels in Berlin. So I mean, I should say this was like 90s now, in the early 90s. And I told them, send me all the catalog, your whole backstock catalog, and I will promote you in the United States and in New York. So I didn't have to pay anything for the records. So they sent me all. And we made the record shop inside a clothing store called Liquid Sky. It was like a rave record shop or something. And it was the day of the opening. None of the records had arrived except 30 copies of one record. So all I did is like I put the 30 records on the wall, and we sold all the 30 records, and from that money we started buying new ones, and then slowly the the new records came in, and I started my first record label, which was called Temple Records, just like the record shop. It was called Temple Records, and this is the first record I put out on my own label.
I am computer, the bad computer. 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 I am computer, the bad computer.
I am computer, the bad computer.
I am computer, the bad computer. I am computer, the bad computer. I am computer, the bad computer. I am computer, the bad.
This was the first record on Temple Records, and let me show you the second one. Yeah. And guess who's singing? Yeah. So my plan was I want to be the Ramones of techno. You know how the Ramones, every song sounds the same? I was like, oh, I can do that too, but I'm going to do it for techno. So they became quite some hits already back then, and back then this stuff was only distributed on record, only on vinyl. There was nothing else, there was no digital or anything, I mean, and this stuff, there were 12 inches, so there was no CD. So we sold quite a few records out of the record shop, and the record shop became quite famous because we had all the European stuff, and all the New York record shops actually mostly had only US stuff. So we had all these people come in. That's where I met Dimitri from Delight, and Björk came in, and everybody came in. Spooky came in, and so it was a great place to meet people, and to make new contacts, and to have fun, So I would play all the records. I learned DJing in my own shop because we had the turntables and everything, and that's how I started. Well, DJing and then playing my stuff live, playing this kind of stuff live, and we made more and more records. The record shop was doing well. In Christmas time, we would fill our pockets with money and go out and have lots of fun. It was really great. And then this company, I don't know if you guys know Matador Records. Matador Records, they're kind of like an indie, very indie, like Interpol is on Matador, Cat Power, I don't know who else, like tons and tons of stuff. So anyway, Matador Records contacted me, and they were like, we want to sign you. And I was like, oh, sounds good, And I was like, oh, isn't that rock music? And, like indie music, it's not electronic, So I met them, we had a meeting, and, it was very nice. they were very cool, and they offered me lots of money. And I was like, okay, this sounds great, because they thought, coming from the indie rock side, they thought I have to go to a studio and pay lots of money for the studio. They didn't know my studio was in my kitchen. And I thought, oh, somebody wants to give me lots of money. I'm not saying no, So I signed the deal for 3 albums, and I was like, I guess I have to do rock now, So I used my electronic equipment, but started mixing it with guitars and more acoustic instruments. And I had the really good idea of sort of producing tracks for people that I really like for singers that I really admire and really like. And through Matador Records, I contacted these people, and then they thought they would get lots of money too, and everybody said yes. So I made an album with guest singers, with lots of guest singers. So I had Fred Schneider from the B-52s sing on it. I met, through Dimitri, I met Julie Cruz. I don't know if you know Julie Cruz. She's the singer she did all the vocals for David Lynch, Twin Peaks, Falling, and all that stuff. I asked her, and she said yes, and we became really good friends. And I asked Andre Williams, who's like this really sleazy, crazy Chicago rap. He almost invented rap, I think, kind of. And I had John Spencer on the album. I had Diamanda Galas on the album. And then I also asked Kid Congo from the Cramps, and he said yes. But I want to play you the song that I did with Diamanda, because she's pretty special. And the song is called Aman, because she said Aman is also used in Greek and in Turkish, and it's a sign of friendship, and I really love the idea. Yeah. So Amanda came to my house and to record the vocals, and then she was warming up her voice in my bedroom. And can you imagine what the warming up of the voice sounds like when you have Diamanda in your bedroom? So she was like screaming. And then all of a sudden she stopped, and then she came out, and she had a pair of my underwear in her hands, and she was like, "What is this?" And she was like, "That's my underwear," you know. And then she turned it around, and my name was on the underwear. And well, yeah, because I used to perform, and I always kind of like did sort of a striptease down to my underwear, and then I would just like, you know, show my name, you know, so everybody knows who I am, you know. And I think then she was convinced that I was a cool guy. You know, she really liked me from then on. We became also really good friends, and we're still in touch. And when I recorded Julie Cruz, you know, Julie is a very tiny, very petite lady, blonde, and I think she thought we're going to a big studio, you know. And I was like, no, 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 we're recording here in my house. That's how the electronic people do it, you know. We don't pay for expensive studios. I'm really sorry that the electronic music scene sort of destroyed the studio scene. But Julie came over, and she has a not very loud voice, you know, so she needs to go really close on the microphone. And then when you're too close to the microphone, it starts popping. The P and the P, 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 you know, you get that stuff. Usually you put it's called a pop screen. You put a pop screen, and it's like a legging. It's like a very thin fabric. And you put it in front of it, like a and then you don't hear the pop. But I didn't have one. So I took a sock. I took my chorap, and I put it over it, and I was like, I'm really sorry, but I don't have anything else. Like, it's clean. It's clean, yeah. And then she was like, don't you think we should close the windows? Because outside was a bus stop, and there was all these like Dominican families screaming, and I was like, no, I think it sounds nice, you know. It's nice to have live on the recording, you know. And then we recorded the song. I'm gonna play it to you afterwards. And we also stayed really good friends, and till today. And another person I recorded was Kid Congo. I asked him to actually, I produced 2 songs for him, because I'm a huge fan of the Gun Club when I was a kid, and then of course of the Cramps. So I asked him to do it, and he said yes. He was working in a clothing store at that time, and he came over, and I really liked him. I mean, I really, really, really liked him, you know. But I was like, no, I'll be professional. First the recording, and then we see what happens, yeah? So we did the recording, and everything turned out really well. And then I told him that I had a crush on him, and he told me he has a crush on me too, and we became boyfriends for 2 years. We toured for around 4 years, and then we toured with Julie and with Kid. And yeah, I mean, I don't know how many shows I played with the two, and it was really like a really beautiful time. And then came September 11th, and everything changed also for me, because, you know, I was still living on a Turkish passport in the US, and nobody bought records anymore. There was no more business in the city. Everything went down. The record shop had to close. I lost my visa. They didn't renew my visa, so I was like, okay, I'm leaving, you know, I have to go. So at that time, I started recording with another guy called Snacks, and we had a band called Captain Comatose. So we said, okay, let's move to Berlin. My brother, I have family in Berlin. Let's move there. We can move into the apartment, and we start this band called Captain Comatose, and that's how we're gonna make our money. So we made a track. We made a song called $100. I wished we would have made a song called $1,000 a day. We said only $100 a day, but it became quite a hit at that time. I think this was, well, yeah, this is like 92 now. And we both moved to Berlin, and it became our new profession to be sort of a singing techno band. This is the track. Everybody now. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Everybody now. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Oh. Yes, that was $100 a day. And again, I wished I had said more. But I mean, it was almost kind of like a little revolution, because none of the electronic acts, usually they were sitting behind their laptops, playing the instruments, the drum machines, but nobody would look up or nobody would actually sing or anything. And we took all the instruments and put it on the side. So the front was open and we would just like play for the people and perform for the people. And it went really well. It brought us to Brazil, all over Asia. We went to all over Europe and United States. And I think we lived on that project at least for 5 years or something, until we had a really bad fight. And that was the end. But, things like this have to happen too, because otherwise you wouldn't change, you would just keep doing the same thing. And I was thinking, okay, what am I going to do now? What am I going to do now? And I decided I wanted to start photography. Not really taking pictures, but I thought like my life is so around my ears that I want to start changing my life more into a visual way. So I actually started stealing photos from the internet. By that we had internet and everything. Time has passed already. And this is how it came about to do my first photo book. So I made a collection of photos where people hide their identities on the internet. They're mainly like, what do you call it? Dating, the dating websites, or you wanna find a night, and a lot of the people don't want to show who they are; they just want to show the body, and so I started collecting these pictures because I thought they almost become a new creature because they would cut out their faces. So if you put them in a row, if you put them in a sequence, you end up with 30 people with like white square heads. And this is the book. I can you see it? Oh, yeah. I published through a gallery in Berlin, and it's the abstract aesthetics of digital flaneurism, meaning walking around in the internet and looking. I didn't do anything to the photos, I just collected them, so it's only the collection, yeah. It's mainly man, because I look at man, when I have nothing else to do. And I was thinking, I want to sing you a song now on top of the video, because it doesn't really have a soundtrack, and I promised to sing. Where did you put my microphone stand? Oh, you use it? No, okay, okay. Well, without microphone stand. Walking down the streets, kicking cans, looking at the billboards, they're all so ranced. Summing up the people, checking out the race, doing what I'm doing, feeling out of place. Walking in the rain. The song is really long, yeah? And I'm a little bit sick today, so I can't really sing. But it fits to the slideshow, I think, huh? Feeling like a woman and looking like a man, sounding like a no-no, mating when I can, whistling in the darkness, shining in the night, coming to conclusions. Night is right, is tight. Walking in the rain. Walking in the rain. Dance the swivel hips, coming to conclusion. Button up your lips. Walking in the rain. Walking in the rain. It's a huge breakdown. 45 minutes breakdown. Well, tonight at the party, thank you. Tonight at the party, you get the extended version of this one with more effect, with more everything, yeah? Thank you. And, well, yeah, the book is still running here. And so I started, after the collection, I started actually taking pictures, and I started sort of documenting my travels and documenting a few ideas I had, and I started combining the two, you know, making my own soundtracks for my own slideshows, or I used the photographs for my shows or stuff like that. And yeah. So I've been, well, this is the soundtrack. Because all these pictures are collected in different chat rooms, I thought, okay, this is about room, this is about space, and these are different spaces. From airports to basements to my stomach to all kinds of things, you know. So these are the ones they're organized in 4 categories. One category is where people flash their faces, so you don't see the face. And the first one was where you cut out. The second one was when you paint over it, so you make like a mask or something. The third one is the flashing. And the fourth one is actually posing, where you just like, where you pose to hide your identity. And they all have sort of different qualities. So I started touring sort of with the photo book, and I called it a photo book reading. You know how like authors and writers go on reading tours, reading from their books. And I was like, well, I'll read from my book, but you can only see the book. So I would just tell stories, I would sing songs, and talk about like the process, how I organized this thing, how I got to do it. And I was actually invited by the Documenta to present the book in 2014, I think. So that was great pleasure. And it was actually really fun to sort of, going from a disco band, you know, where you have to like entertain people, where you could sort of change the format into, you're still entertaining people, but you can also talk, or you can, you know, it's a different meeting. It's not just, you know, the sex and drugs and rock and roll thing. So from then on, I just started to sort of expand my vocabulary in music, in photography, or in art in general, and also in my performing ways, you know. And oh, that's posing. I think it's a really funny book in a way. Most people don't think it's so funny, but I mean, I don't know. I brought a couple of copies with me, so you know, you guys can, you know, if you want one, you can buy one. I think I don't know what I said. I think the book is 15 euros. How much is that? How much would that be? Times 100, yeah, 100 lira, 100 lira. And I brought some records too. Bit cheaper, I don't know, whatever you have, you know. So you can have a look afterwards, you know, if you want to have a see. So I still collaborated with a lot of people, but now I started collaborating, for example, with other photographers, and we would make projects, for example, where we take pictures of, you know, using microphones on the body, so it would make sound, and we took pictures at the same time. Or with a friend of mine from Italy, his name is Jacopo Benassi, he's a photographer. We demolished a house and we recorded everything. It was like an empty house that was sort of falling apart. So we demolished the house and recorded everything. And then we took pictures at the same time, and then I edited, I made a collage out of the out of the recordings, and it became a record too. And so I'm quite happy that this sort of, it's quite difficult in the music business if you change your style, or if you're a bit diverse, because people expect you to do the same thing over and over again. I should have stayed with my Ramones idea from the beginning. I would be rich now. But I would be really bored too, you know. So I can always go back. I can always go back to the stuff, and that's what I do too. Because at the moment, sort of my stuff that I recorded 20 years ago is quite popular again. So a lot of people are asking me if I still have unreleased stuff, and I do. When I left New York, I brought a big box full of DAT tapes. Do you know DAT tapes? The small digital audio tapes, and I never transferred it to the computer. So I think 3 years ago I did it. It took me like 3 months or something, and I recorded all the DAT tapes onto computer, and now I have 150 hours of unreleased music, and I'm selling it. It's really good. So I have actually people call me, and I have everything here in my iTunes library, and I put my iPad here, so they can see my iTunes library. I play them the stuff over the iPad, and then they can choose. You know, I tell them, what do you want? How much do you want? You know. So they pick the songs. I make a playlist for them. I send them. We go again through the playlist and throw everything out that's not so much what they want anymore, because it develops while you look for it, sort of, you know. You create the style that you want, and then we throw out all the stuff they don't want. Then I send them MP3s of the stuff, and from that, at home they listen to it loud and they listen for a while, and then they make the record. They pick 4 songs, or when they do a double 12-inch, for example, they do 8 songs. No, how much that? Well, it depends, you know, 8 songs or something like this. And then I send them a little contract, and the contract says you can only copy on vinyl and on nothing else. And that's all my contract is, really, you know, because the digital stuff I do myself, because the digital world is a fucking jungle, and you never see your stuff again, you know, if you give somebody a digital right. So this is really nice now, because they press it on record, which is quite expensive actually, and they put it out and they're happy. But I can also put it out digitally through my channels, and then the money just ends up in my pocket, and I can go on nice vacation trips to Turkey and, you know, where else I want to go, you know. So it's a pretty good system now, I think. I think we're coming to an end soon, are we? Or, I mean, we wanted to have a break, was the plan, so you can have a drink, but because everything was so late, I think we maybe cut it a little bit short, or what do you think, you guys? No radio no. We can go on a little bit. Okay. So I want to play you another video. This is sort of has to do with a new project that I'm doing. I'm kind of, you know, I'm very interested in looking, you know. I like, I mean, a big motor for me is, for example, you know, if you look for people, you look for love, you look for sex, you look for interests. So it's always this looking. Yeah. Okay. 9 o'clock is the. Okay. Yeah, got it. Thank you very much. So we have a few more minutes, and I'm gonna change the plan because I wanted to play you the song. Well, what am I gonna do now? No, I play you this one, which is my new project, and it's about Hasenheide. It's a park. It's a park in Berlin that has a very strange. I mean, it's a park like any other park, but it's a park very famous for like people selling drugs. Then there is another section where people go to have sex. It's like a cruising park. And then, of course, there's the family part, and then there is lots of animals. So there's an animal part. So it's this kind of like this weird, you know, ecosystem of things going on, and nobody knows about the other one, you know, I mean, or pretend to not know about the other one. So I made a track with Kim Gordon from Sonic Youth, and the video we shot in that park. So this is the video. Thank you. Let me try. How do I do this? It was Command T, I think. Didn't he say Command T? Press Command T. Oh no. It doesn't work. I can't really. I wanted to show you the project I'm doing on the Hasenheide, the photos. You can have a look here. And I want to say goodbye to you guys with the song I promised you that I recorded with Julie Cruz. And it's called Say Goodbye. I'm only singing the backing vocals, okay?
Song of love, you left my heart in pain. Only sighs, love's left and gone away. It's like all the stars in the sky, they will die and burn out in flames. Say goodbye to me. It's the end. Don't tell me we'll be friends. Nothing's left, just whisperings of pain. Say goodbye to me. Look at me. I'm a walking tragedy. I'm just an empty shell of the girl I used to be. Left to drown, alone in pain. Hear me cry, scream your name. Fading fast, you've flushed my love away. Can't you see I'm lost and lonely friend? Set adrift until a sea of pain. Think I'll jump into the deep abyss. Last goodbye, for you I'll leave a kiss. Say goodbye to me. Say goodbye to me. Say goodbye to me. Say goodbye to me.
Thank you everybody for coming. It was a great pleasure. Thank you so much, really. I hope I see you tonight. I'm gonna play a whole show and Bang is playing. And yeah, one more time, thank you everybody for coming. This is a great pleasure. Thank you Radio No, and thank you MiniMüzikhol. Thank you Avni, and thank you Jansu. I love you very much. Stop. Thanks.